Hello, everybody. Don't make me come over there year long. You know I will. So, yeah. They're not causing the problem, but I'm going to keep picking on them all week because it's too much fun. I'm part of their crew now. So, good evening and welcome to the first Tuesday, first full day, second day of Summer Fishtrap. How was your day? You know, Mike trained us a little bit. Welcome to day 2 of Summer Fishtrap. Menamosa. Welcome to day 2 of Summer Fishtrap. How was your day? All right. Are you still feeling warm? Okay. We're so happy to have you back. I want to again thank you for joining us again for the second night. We have some great faculty readings tonight from Sam Mills and Perrin, Kerns, and Abeyta, and it's going to be a lovely evening. Before we get going, I also want to thank the folks that are watching us online and streaming us on YouTube. If you miss any of the readings this week, or you just, gosh, you got to hear them again, they're going to be online forever and ever as long as Google says it's okay. So please know you can watch them. Last night's reading is already up and streaming and linked on the website, and you can watch these the rest of the week. Little secret stuff, even in the next coming months, all the panel discussions and craft talks will be available too, but don't tell anybody. It's just between us, okay? Before we get started, again, I want to thank some of our foundations and funders and partners. So again, the Kinsman Foundation, the wonderful folks at Wallowa Lake Lodge, Eastern Oregon University Master of Fine Arts and Creative Writing Program, the Book Loft. Can we just give the Book Loft a little extra love? Mike mentioned this last night, but do know this partnership is long. I think some of you know that Rich Wanschneider and Judy Wanschneider actually started the Book Loft, and then they got this other gig. And then Mary Swanson ran the Book Loft for years, and now we've got new folks. And Becky Weiland, who's one of the new owners, is here tonight. They donate 20% of everything that you buy this night back to Fishtrap, and that's such a huge thing. So do thank them for that. And if you're like me, you don't need an extra incentive to buy books because, come on, books, but hey, it's a nice thing. Buy a second one. So I also want to thank Wallowa County Chamber of Commerce and the Terminal Gravity folks again for their tents. How many of you had a workshop in a tent today? Great. Did it smell like beer? Okay, just checking. All right. So before we get going tonight, I do want to do a little bit of business. If you get all dreamy, before you get all dreamy with all the readings tonight, but there's a couple of things that I need y'all to know. So tomorrow, you ready? Tomorrow is Food Truck Day. So there are several food trucks coming up, including Z's Barbecue and Ruby Peak Naturals and some other folks whose names just fell out of my head very much right now. But they'll be here. One thing I do want to say tonight and starting tomorrow, that east side of the lodge right here, so this side of the building from pretty much the deck up to the end of the building, please don't park there because the food trucks need to park there. And if you want to get fed, don't take their parking spot because then you'll just be hungry and it's sad. So please don't, please don't park there. One of the trucks is actually coming at 7 tonight or may be here now, but do know they'll be here at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. So if you are here, don't park your car and leave it here overnight. Tomorrow, food, for folks coming up from the county and from everybody here, Red will be open for beverages, but they're not going to be serving dinner tonight, so all the food will be coming from the food trucks, but there's lots of options, and that should be tons of fun. Starting Thursday morning, breakfast, there will be no breakfast buffet, but there will be regular breakfast service, and that will start at 7 in the morning. You can order off the menu and have a good time. So just a couple of little changes, and with that, now you know all the inside trading that goes on with Summer Fishtrap. Yay, so excellent. Shall we get to some readings? That's why you're here. I'm super excited about this. Sam Mills, this is not his first time at Summer Fishtrap, but his first time teaching at Summer Fishtrap, and we're so excited to have him here. He studied architecture at Columbia University and creative writing at the University of Montana and cartooning on his own. I know some folks like you. He published a graphic novel, Butcher Paper, and a prose science fiction novel, The Obsoletes. His logos, illustrations, and cartoons had appeared in The Inlander, Smokelawn Quarterly, Scablands Books, Okey Panky, and other venues. Ooh, I like that name, Okey Panky, that's cool. At Eastern Washington University, has anybody have gone to Eastern Washington University? There's usually somebody here. Oh, there's one, yay! He teaches classes in drawing and visual storytelling and imaginary worlds. He embraces the unplanned and unexpected elements that find their way into his drawings and stories, and he's committed to inspiring his students to encounter those elements in their work too. So please, for the very first time, welcome Sam Mills to the Fishtrap stage.
Thank you, Shannon. First off, I want to say what an honor it is to be reading with Perrin, Kerns, and Abeyta tonight. As Shannon said, this is my third year at Fishtrap, but I feel very lucky to have gotten a bit of the Fishtrap experience. My other previous 2 times being here, when my wife, Sharma Shields, was an instructor. Now we're team teaching this year. But just being in this environment, sort of feeding off all of the creative energy that's happening in workshops, and being able to attend readings like this, being able to attend craft talks, and just experience the amazing environment has played a really big part in the creation of things that I'm working on right now. So it's really cool to be here as an instructor. And I just want to say, like, we had our first official kind of day of workshops today, and I get so inspired to see our students who are all trying new things. Our workshop is a little bit different. We're covering microfiction, visual storytelling, and zine making. And I think at least 2 of those are pretty new to most members in our group. But they're just approaching them with enthusiasm, with effort, with open-mindedness, and I think that's not surprising to me, because that's what Fishtrap is all about, and I think that's why we're here. So it's very cool to be here and see that. So I'm going to share with you some visual narratives tonight. I thought it was kind of important for me because some of you probably may not try this, but you might be encouraged to try visual narratives, even if you're not in our workshop. So I wanted to show you some of my first stuff that I did as an adult. I did do comics a little bit. I remember a series I had in like 4th grade, but I did this after getting an MFA. So I had been writing for a while and decided to go into comics. These first set of comics are about a job that I had for about 9 years on and off. And I'm sure that there are people in the audience that have had the same job of a substitute teacher. I think most people that go into like K-12 education have to spend at least a little bit of time doing this. And there's something inherently humiliating about it. You go into a room, you don't know anybody, any of the names, you don't know the procedures, but all the kids do, and they're just so out to get you every time. There's just conflict baked into it. So it was a great source for material as I was thinking of comics. So you're gonna see initially some comic strips that I wrote, and each one, well, most of them, there's one that's just 1 panel, but most are 6 panels. I'm gonna show them one at a time. And they're just little sort of moments of life that happen for substitute teachers. All of these are really based on real things that happened, things I heard, just sort of moments in the room, although some have been exaggerated for effect. So if you're a teacher, you might kind of recognize that and see that. So I'll get going. Good Morning is the first title. Yes, a sub. She's gone, a sub. A sub, look. Badass. We have a sub. I'll be reading the paper if you need anything. I did read the paper. Pop quiz. What's number 8? Does that say 5 carpenters or 5 centimeters? Guys, it's okay. He's my brother-in-law. Motorcycles. No playing with sticks. They're not sticks. They're motorcycles. Okay, but don't kill each other. Kick me. Some kids put this on my seat. Whose is this? I said, whose is this? Can I have it back then? Thermos, and this is just 1 panel long. Small thermos you got there. And name game. Mr. Slim? Yes? Mr. Slim? Mr. Dim? So that's some substitute teacher comics. Thank you. So I wrote a graphic novel after working on those comics for a while. And this is called Butcher Paper, and it's got kind of 2 different styles going on. It looks a little bit different than what I just showed you. I'm still going to show it to you 1 panel at a time. The one thing I want you to know is I draw on a little more realistic style for this one, and you're going to see someone who looks a lot like me up there because I was kind of using myself for reference. The voice and the character that I was really trying to embody here is my own father. Like many of you, you might have like those people in your life that just have such a strong voice that you find yourself using it in writing. They just kind of like write stories themselves almost when you try to like harness that voice. And that's been my dad like for a long time. So this was kind of trying to not just have his voice, but also kind of look like him and sort of act like him as I used photos for reference and tried to create this visual story. It was kind of a way to sort of get his voice out of my head a little bit because I haven't returned to it too much after this, but I just wanted you to know that was kind of the inspiration. So this is Butcher Paper. You awake, kid? We got something to discuss. Your report card came today. No, don't get up. Stay in bed. You're fine right where you are. This is usually your mother's job, isn't it? Tucking you in, goodnight kisses, all that shit. But she's at her place. You're stuck with me all summer. And looks like your bedroom light's burned out. I'll get on that tomorrow. Not much use to us tonight. Point is, I get home from work and I see this envelope. To Parent B, it says. And I'm thinking, what did your mother do? Mail the school our divorce papers? 2 months and I'm already Parent B? You flunked English. The report card says you read at a 3rd grade level, which means... Will you tell me what it means? You're going to be a senior in high school next year. That report card wasn't the only thing that came. School sent this fat brown box too. Could have had a deluxe pipe wrench collection in it. That's how heavy it was. Thing was filled with these books, readers they call them. 100 little readers with a cute little sheet of instructions. You're supposed to read one of those suckers aloud every night, all summer long. And they're supposed to get harder as you go. So somewhere in August, you'll be reading Moby Dick. And I can already hear your mother's opinion on all this, how you would die of old age before I'd make you crack one of them readers. How all we're going to do all summer is drink beer and fart on the couch. She probably thinks you're getting dumber just sleeping down the hall from me. If that were true, she ought to be as smart as a toilet seat by now. Point is, we're reading every last one of them books. Three per night. Got it? Here's your first haul. Don't be nervous, they ain't thick. I looked over that one on top. Nothing but a baby book, really. So read it to me. I won't ask again. House spider. Forgive me for being a giant spider who lived in your house and bit off your head. We had a complicated relationship. Roommates. A pair of single, 30-ish heterosexual males. I wouldn't have called us friends. After all, I paid you rent. You never shared the beer. And you ate my best friend, Rufus. I said good morning to you yesterday. You thought I was your cat. Here's what you never knew about me. This was my mom. When I was 16, I ran away to New York City. Then I moved to Montana. After that, I hit rock bottom. I shared a truck with a total dickhead. Luckily, I found your neighborhood. Your house. Your booze cabinet. Which brings us to last night, the party. It started innocently enough. I was relaxing alone on the internet when all my buddies showed up. Somebody killed your cat. I have no idea who ate your toe. Suddenly, it was morning. I woke up with my ex-girlfriend's arm in my mouth. You were in one of your moods. Maybe I overreacted. A week passes. I miss you. A birthday card from your mom. Almost kills me. But time heals all wounds. I put a sign in the front yard. funny thing about my new roommate, you would have loved her. I know what you're thinking. That black mold growing on the back of the toilet, and when the hell is your dad gonna get around to cleaning it? Listen, I see that stuff. Yesterday, I poked it with my toothbrush, and I'm not kidding, the mold winced. So buying some cleaner and killing that stuff is another thing on the list. And I'm keeping lists now. And you knocked that first book right out of the park. Proud of you. Got all the words right, as far as I could tell. Look at us. Ought to take a picture, mail it to your mother. Now we got momentum. You ready for book number 2? Well, I'm ready. Go ahead and read that son of a bitch. That's all. Thank you. Are we,
Yeah, she's ready. We couldn't see it on the screen. Yeah, just go to All right, sorry, we had a little technical issue. You all could see the drawings, but none of the people on YouTube could. So thank you for, they just saw a white screen. So thanks for being understanding. We'll work on that a little bit. So before we get going with the second reading with Perrin, while she sets up, I wanted to let you know about the Star Party. Have you all, does anybody here not want to hear about the Star Party? This is pretty cool. So the Star Party, can I have Amy Minato raise your hand? This is Amy Minato, yay! Amy Minato is a long-time friend, leader, worker bee, helped start youth programs at Fishtrap, and she's a friend of ours, and she and her husband are going to be doing a stargazing presentation at the Wallowa Lake State Park Amphitheater after this reading tonight. If you are interested in going, after that they're going to go to the state park and the lakeside day use area, and you're going to get to look up and hopefully through the haze see some wonderful stars tonight. Don't be too concerned. I know a couple folks have asked. There is smoke that's blown into the area, but it's not local as far as we know, so we're all good. But if you want to go out and look at stars tonight, Amy will be meeting you in the front of the lodge after the reading tonight. She is lovely. If nothing else, go so you can hang out with Amy. I recommend it highly. So that's happening tonight. Are we ready, folks? I think they're ready. Are you ready? We're ready. Are you ready, Janice? Janice is not ready. Oh, Janice is ready. Okay, Perrin Kerns. Perrin, I love you dearly. Perrin has been teaching creative writing for over 30 years. For many of those years, she served as the director of writing at Marylhurst University. More recently, she's been teaching literature, creative nonfiction, and digital storytelling at Duke University's Center for Documentary Studies, Prescott College, PNCA's MFA, Portland State University, Literary Arts, where I took a workshop from her and it was wonderful, and Fishtrap. Her own creative work has taken her from the lyric essay to digital storytelling to personal narrative documentaries based on her lyric essays, which are wonderful. She needs to put them together so we can all read them all the time. She is excited to teach, she's just finished a sustained creative nonfiction workshop with these troublemakers over in the corner. So please help me welcome Perrin Kerns.
So you've probably been able to read that. This essay does have the word vulva, vagina, clitoris in it. It's nothing explicit. It's about a disease I have called vulvodynia. And sometimes after I gave this to a couple friends of mine, and they said afterwards that they were really sorry about my pain, and I hope to get through that this isn't about my pain, it's about a much larger pain. So this is you can click. Kim's here as my helper. This is a lyric essay, and I just want to talk about that for the students here who might not know that form. A lyric essay just means that it's fragmented and that it doesn't have a narrative thread through it. Instead, it works through a series of resonance. And yeah, it's called A Painful Pudenda, 13 Ways of Looking at the Vagina. I did cut one of the ways because I needed it to be shorter. So I dedicate this reading to my courageous and incredibly productive year-long students. They will be reading on Saturday at 1:30. I hope you will come see what they have done this year. It's been an incredible year with them. And I also dedicate this to my husband, who told me I could go ahead and read this essay, even though you guys will never look at the two of us the same again. And I do PowerPoints just because I want you to look at something other than me. So, A Painful Pudenda, 13 Ways of Looking at the Vagina. Quote, "The organ is completely ignored by pretty much everyone," medical experts say, and that omission can be devastating to women's sexual health. New York Times, October 2022. Note the date. Pretty recent. Go. Whoops, you passed the, whoops. Yeah. Okay. One. Now, quick. The Smelly Divide. When I was in 7th grade, a joke circulated in my junior high school. I first heard it from my friend Pam, who wore striped overalls every day and kept a bandana tied tightly over her beautiful blonde hair. Our small gang of girlfriends was gathered at her locker, and she quipped. A blind man was passing a fish stand and called out, "Hello, ladies." This really cracked us up, as our young bodies had just begun to rise with hormones and smells. We dispersed to our classes and repeated the joke to other friends. In the following weeks, we heard the joke in the lunchroom, in the halls, in the gym class, and while walking home. No matter how many times I heard it, we were always laughing. No matter how many times we heard it, we were always laughing, hysterically. We had learned well, even so young, that at some level, women's private parts were just kind of gross, like fish, dead fish. 2, left to rot. That same year, a neighbor, a 35-year-old blonde woman who lived a block away from us, went missing on Christmas Eve morning when she was running on a country road near Sisters, Oregon. After a few months, she was found in pieces in a buried sleeping bag. It took a long time to discover that 2 men had grabbed her, raped her, and then killed her. The proximity of this violence was, of course, terrifying to me and my friends. In addition to knowing that vaginas were kind of gross, we were learning that men hunted women for access to this particular hole and punished women for having it. We realized as we became women that we were prey. My neighbor's fate left us feeling like we were swimming in a sea of hateful currents that might sweep us away at any moment. Serial killers were literally the riptides of the 1970s. 3, what are we looking at? When I was about 14, I came into a friend's house unexpectedly and found her with her dress pulled up, one leg on the bench in front of a big hall mirror, studying what she could see there. She got furious at my intrusion and stormed off to her room, slamming the door. I sheepishly retreated. Her actions seemed curious to me. I didn't look at my private parts when I was young, as they were a source of such danger. The less I thought about my vagina, the better, and the less I looked at it, the safer I felt. That part of my body was the dark and scary abyss, touched only with toilet paper and kept secret even from myself. One night, a few years ago, I couldn't sleep, so I was scrolling through the New York Times on my phone. An article caught my eye. Half the world has a clitoris, why don't doctors study it? It was 2022. It turned out that the medical establishment hasn't wanted to look at the vagina any more than I did 50 years ago. In fact, the clitoris has pretty much been ignored by the medical establishment. Scientists are just now dissecting and diagramming it and understanding the clitoris as a dominant organ with a large and complex nerve system. For a culture obsessed with sex and pornography and looking at women's vaginas, This is a surprising historical evasion of seeing the female body beneath the surface. Yet this lack of deep looking captures the basic cultural disdain for the vagina that I felt at a young age. When I told some women friends about the New York Times article about the clitoris, many of them started to ponder words. Some of them didn't know the difference between the vulva and the vagina. Where is the labia exactly, a few asked. Is the vagina the whole thing or just the entry? The questions made me realize how little our generation knows about our bodies, even though we had our bodies ourselves as a touchstone in the 80s. In the search to clarify the nomenclature for my friends, I went to the web to do some quick research. And of course, what popped up were some of the slang words for our vagina. Panty hamster, mossy clef, pink taco, hoo-hoo, foo-foo, poon, poontang, fur burger, beef curtains, meat curtains, cooch, hot box, squeeze box, hair pie, front butt, bearded clam, tuna taco, fish taco, cod canal. Snakes have clitorises too. About 2 months after the New York Times reported about women's clitorises, they ran another article. Scientists overlooked the snake clitoris until now. Missed for decades, this anatomical revelation opened the door to seduction and female stimulation, potentially playing roles in sex mating. Coming so shortly after the article about the total medical disregard of the human anatomy for centuries, this article says it all. Women are about as valued as other species, and research into their anatomy runs parallel to research into snake sex lives. Perhaps the discovery of the snake's clits was postponed by our most obvious equation of snakes with phalluses. But then on the other hand, maybe snakes and women have always been intertwined in our cultural psyche with our fall from grace, something not to be looked at too closely. I'm going to talk about this picture tomorrow because the AI generated it and it wouldn't give me a nude Eve. If you're wondering why she has a dress on. Okay, number 5, giving up the whole for holiness. About 2 years after my friends and I joked about women's smelly parts and my neighbor was murdered, my divorced mom decided to have a hysterectomy. We were living in a small rental house, and she recovered in her tiny bedroom at the back of the house with all the curtains drawn. She took a long time to even start moving again. She seemed hollowed out, literally, and when she did come out of her room, she headed to church, a place she had never gone before. Her friend Dorothy, who was a Catholic full of good works and social justice, started picking up my mom for prayer meetings and Sunday services. My mom lost her uterus, but found Jesus. She told me she hadn't needed the hysterectomy, but her married gynecologist, whom she was having an affair with, suggested it so that he could tighten her vaginal canal. A tightening intended to heighten her partner's pleasures, including him. This plastic surgery would only be covered by insurance if they took out the uterus and the ovaries at the same time as a kind of preventative medicine. It might seem odd that my mom told me this, and I'm not totally sure she told me at the time. This might have come out later, but I was aware then that my mom was changed by the surgery in some permanent and sorrowful way. The gynecologist had sewn up her vagina so tightly and left so much scar tissue that it was hard for anyone to enter her again without excruciating pain on her part. She never had pleasurable sex again, and she was only 55 when she had the surgery. Later, when my mom wrote her memoir, she suggested that her love of Jesus was almost sexual in nature. The same thrill of light and passion she felt for God was akin to the spiritual bond she felt with a lover. Love in all forms filled my mom with a sense of endless connection. I'm skipping a section. Now, 7, the black hole. When I found out at 19 that my dad was a practicing, if closeted, gay man, suddenly the whole puzzling culture made sense to me. No one liked vaginas, really. My stepmother, my own mother, and my two grandmothers were not sexual beings or objects of desire from our culture's perspective or from my father's perspective either. They were old and soft and either round or angular, but not hard and straight and direct. Suddenly it was clear that everyone around me loved men much better than they loved women, particularly women who were anywhere past their early 20s. While the Playboys, which my dad kept around the house as a kind of cover, seemed to worship the sexy female body as an object of use, the average woman and her desires were reviled. The vagina was an oxymoron. Everybody seemed to worship it on paper, but secretly found real ones shameful at some base level. It made sense to me at once that my father desired the direct prominence of the penis and the exposed present available star of the anus. No multiple folds and hidden access there. Just take it as it is. Such a clear target. 8, the vagina dentata. In college, you can change. In college, I enrolled in a folklore class taught by a debonair man with a gray goatee whose children I knew during high school and who was married to a quiet Japanese woman. I also knew he was having affairs with a friend's mother and with various female grad students in the English department at the U. This was campus culture in the 80s. The older professors preyed on the young students around them. Everyone knew it and even condoned it. In folklore, he had us reading endless folk tales from different cultures about the vagina dentata, story after story of vaginas with teeth that would devour the man's penis. The psychologist Eric Newman wrote that in one such myth, a fish inhabits the vagina of the terrible mother. The hero is the man who overcomes the terrible mother, breaks the teeth out of her vagina, and so makes her into a woman. We all come from our mother's vaginas, and women's connection to life and thus death was an undercurrent in the long history of revulsion with the vagina. We could be born from darkness, but also swallowed back into that darkness. 9, dreams of my father. I didn't have a serious boyfriend until I was 22, and then I suddenly discovered the silky haven of my own body. But when I was settled into this relationship, I had recurrent nightmares that I was married to my own father. My partner constantly warned me I would get fat someday. His fortune telling was true. And although I was still very thin, he didn't often desire me. Perhaps because my partner was older than me or suffering from a chronic illness, he seemed to prefer images or video rather than the real thing with its demands, smells, taste, and mess. Newly awakened to sex, my vagina ached with longing, and I was full of shame at this desire. It caused constant tension between us. I thought if I could only look prettier, have the right haircut, wear the right clothes, and make the best dinner, I would somehow earn his desire. If he was ever angry at me, he would be quick to call me cunt, a word that always cut me as it applied the very disgust that I feared kept him distant. At some deep level, I understood or agreed with his rejection of me. I would often quote a Woody Allen line to him. We have so much in common. I hate me and you hate me too. 10, a cold fish. In our second year together, believe it or not, I stayed 10 years with this person. In our second year together, we traveled for Christmas to a remote island camp with that his family had in Canada. The caretakers took us on snowmobiles 30 miles into the wilderness, cut a hole in the ice, and set a line for us to fish for dinner. Then left us there at the cabin on a frozen lake to spend the holiday. We forgot about the fishing line for many days as we cross-country skied around the lake, then stayed inside the cabin trying to create some Christmas cheer, and I feebly tried to initiate some intimacy. Finally, we noticed that the stick with the string leading down into the ice was bent and taut with a fish's struggle. We bundled up and headed out into the cold night to pull out of the dark hole a giant gnashing pike with its sharp, pointy teeth. The fishing line had cut it all along the side of its head. It must have been on the line for days trying to get free. I weirdly identified. My partner hammered it on the head with a board. It was too big for us to clean and eat that night, so we left it there next to the ice hole, a dark figure on the snow. So much passion for life gone to waste. Some days of sun arrived, and it was not too long before it started to smell. 11. Silk turns to sandpaper. The clitoris is, in quote, the clitoris is intimately intertwined with all the pelvic structures around it, including the urethra, the duct of urination, the vagina, and the labia. Scientific American, March 2020. In my early 30s, when I met my husband, I found someone who wanted me as much as I wanted him. Hubba hubba. Our bodies longed to be together in a tangle of bedding, but just when sexual heaven arrived, a mysterious hell followed. I used a diaphragm for the first time, and somehow everything went awry. Yeast infections, bacterial infections, and then a pain in the vulva that just never went away. When my husband entered me, I was no longer that smooth, silky entryway of pleasure that I had been, but instead his penis... This is hard to read. Oh my gosh. His penis on a good day felt like covered with sandpaper, and on a bad day felt like a knife being driven into me. I thought back to the vagina dentata and imagined that I myself had grown teeth that were eating away at me. My vagina had become a monster in my own body, giving rise to pain in the very place where pleasure should be. Even sitting on a bike or wiping with toilet paper hurt. Even though my husband and I found many inventive ways to work around my pain, I still often cried after sex, partly from the frustration of the persistence of the mystery. I went to doctor after doctor. During pregnancy, the pain remained. They found HPV that had turned into precancerous cells, then they burned and cut patches off that tender zone. But still the pain continued even once the HPV, the precancer, and the surgeries had healed, and my son was born. Then they sent me to natural doctors who burned me with acid from papaya. They had me soak myself in black tea and then lidocaine. They tried razors. They did biopsies. Physical therapists poked and prodded. Nothing helped. Doctors would use a Q-tip and rub along the folds entering my vagina called the vestibules, and I would wince with pain. Finally, they gave me a diagnosis of vulvodynia, which literally means pain in the vagina. They really know nothing about it other than that many women suffer from it. I was a lucky one because I at least had relief every month when I ovulated. As a chronic pain condition, vulvodynia impacts about 16% of women. So out of 100 women, about 16 of them are walking around with pain in their pudenda. One doctor who worked at a clinic that was specifically studying women's vaginal pain told me that they were beginning to think that vulvodynia was a psychological result of a woman not wanting kids. I wanted to scream at her, but I just nodded politely. I could pinpoint the day that this disease descended on my body. I knew there was something physically wrong, even if they couldn't explain it or understand it. Also, I desperately wanted another child. 12, an old pain, end quote. The full clitoris is still inadequately portrayed in most anatomy textbooks used by doctors. New York Times, 2022. The young gynecologist came into the room and sat down at the computer. She was new at my clinic and looked about 12, but I was 60 now, so she was probably more like 30. I want to talk to you about my vulvar pain, I said, as well as have my annual exam. She looked puzzled, having been reading the disregard for women's anatomy in the medical profession. I felt moved to talk about my vulvar pain once again. The doctor didn't say anything, so I added, I've had this pain for over 27 years. Is there any new research or any findings about it? The gynecologist looked at me for a minute and said, there are new findings. That was the end of the conversation about pain. She gave me my exam, and then I asked her specifically to give me the pain test with the Q-tips. I winced again as she ran the Q-tips down my vestibules, and she just nodded. Yes, you have vulvodynia. She suggested that I use more estrogen cream, even though I had told her it didn't help. Probably about 15 years ago, I had stopped talking about this pain with doctors, as it was clear that nobody understood it. Might it be a result of an injury due to those invasive surgeries to the precancerous cells? Might it be something in my diet that irritates? Might it be an after effect of HPV? Might something have happened to my nerves down there? Might it be a strange bacteria of some sort, an unrecognized disease? Because we don't talk about this part of our bodies, most people in my life don't know that I live with this chronic pain. 13, dis-ease down under. In the New York Times article about the clitoris, I learned that the newest wave in plastic surgery is labiaplasty. Women opt to have surgery to make their vaginas look more like porn vulvas that the culture is consuming. In so doing, many women are left by plastic surgeons who don't understand the anatomy of the vulva with nerve injuries that either result in numbness, permanent inability to orgasm, or chronic pain. I think of my mom's botched surgery for male pleasure. We as women haven't traveled very far. Maybe we have traveled even closer to the insanity of letting the male gaze, which we incorporate as our own, determine our desire and sexuality to such a point that we destroy our own pleasure to try to mimic the desired pink taco. As the Me Too movement rolled out, I thought about all the forms of pain in the pudenda that women have suffered. This psychic and emotional pain has been largely ignored until now. The article on the clitoris in the New York Times helped me see that we also have a long history of the medical establishment's failure to look seriously at women's intimate health and their physical pain. When I got a new water filter some years ago to filter chemicals out of our water, my 18-year-old son questioned why I needed to do this expensive filtering. I decided to tell him, I have chronic pain in my vagina and I want to see if drinking purer water will help it at all. I was thinking maybe all the chemical treatment of our water in Portland is contributing to my pain somehow. He was surprised. The subject is just embarrassing for a young man thinking about his mom's vulva. But I wanted my son to know about women's bodies. So I asked him to sit down, and I told him all about this long history of pain in the pudenda. After I finished talking, he reached over and took my hand. Thank you. That's it.
Set change. Can you all hear me? Okay? I'm super shy. I'm going to do a little tap dance while they do a little set change. So I wanted to talk to you all first. Can I get a raise of hands for everybody in the room with Fishtrap? Look around the room, folks. Wowzers. Do you know what this means for us? I just wanted to, I think I sent a little email out a few weeks ago. You now have made it official. You are covering the lease for our Volvo building.
Let's go my way.
Now, for those of you who are not from here, maybe don't know quite what that means, you all see us do this stuff at Summer Fishtrap. 80% of the rest of the year we're doing programs for our local community. A lot of those happen inside that Boulder building. And this year, because of you, we're also able to make that building available to other organizations who want to use it for free. So you are a big part of that. You're giving back to our county. So we wanted to do something for you this week, but also those of you who aren't fish trappers, which looks like about 6 of you. I do want to tell you what this program does. This is a standing donor program. It's not like the public broadcasting. You don't get a tote bag. But what you do get is discounts to Summer Fish Trap. Starting next year, we're going to offer discounts to Outpost with the Fish Trapper program. Put a plug in that just for a second. I do want to say also, if you are a Summer Fish Trap registrant now, we are also offering you a 40% discount on the Outpost trip on the St. Weber this summer. So if you want to take advantage of that, ooh, now I can talk. That's so much better on my delicate little vocal cords. Thank you. If you are interested in taking advantage of that, you need to do it by the end of summer Fishtrap. So plug in that. But anyway, I wanted to let you know that your donations to Fishtrap have made such a huge difference. It gives us a steady income every month, and it means we can do things that are partnerships with other community organizations, including Eastern Oregon University and Art Center East and the Giuseppe Center for Arts and Culture. You're making a big difference. Starting this year, in part thanks to you, we're also going to launch a theater program for our local kids. So this donation support goes way further than you can help. But so what we're doing this week is anybody who signs up to be a fish trapper, you can get a little ticket that you can fill out and put it in a drawing. Every night we're going to do a drawing, and you're going to get a prize. Somebody's going to get a prize. If you are currently a fish trapper and you have not put a little ticket in the jar, please see one of us this week, because you're going to be eligible for a prize too. Grand prize on Saturday night. Anybody guess what it is? Free registration to Summer Fish Trap next year. So please come see this lovely human being, Jennifer Hobbs, who we're going to bring up because the first drawing is tonight. Are you ready? You don't have to be here. All right. You ready to you get to announce the name, okay?
Oh, okay.
Do you want to say anything?
So let's see if we can fill this up this week. And the prizes each night are a surprise, but they do get kind of more interesting. So enter early. If you win, your ticket goes back in the jar for the Summer Fish Trap registration. So winning doesn't disqualify you from the big prize on Saturday.
Yeah. Don't be sad if you win. That would be bad. Yeah. Aw, darn. Okay, you ready? This person right here is fabulous, I can tell.
Oh, Jackie Lanham. She's still here.
Yay!
Yay! She just signed up an
She's
hour
our
ago.
newest fish trapper. Thank you,
Woo-hoo!
Jackie. Yeah.
And Jackie is going to get to choose the t-shirt of her choice, but if you haven't seen them, here's the one that I picked. You can pick one that fits your needs exactly.
All right. Thanks so much, Jennifer. All right. So consider this next reading like a teaser, a little taste, an appetizer for Saturday night's keynote. So you ready for some fun? Here we go. Erin Abeyta, thank you for coming back, is a Colorado native, professor of English, and the former mayor of Antonito, Colorado, his hometown. Abeyta is also the co-founder of the Justice and Heritage Academy. He's the author of 5 collections of poetry and 1 novel. For his book, Colcha, Abeyta received an American Book Award and was the Colorado Book Award. His most recent book, Ancestor of Fire, was shortlisted for the Reading the West Book Award. In addition, his novel, Rise, Do Not Be Afraid, was a finalist for the 2007 Colorado Book Award and El Premio Aztlan. Abeyta was awarded a Colorado Council of the Arts Fellowship for Poetry, and he's the former poet laureate of the Colorado's Western Slope, as named by the Kerns Poet Festival. I'm going to stop there because this blog can keep going, and you're going to hear more of it on Saturday because we want to hear you read now. Please welcome Erin Abeyta to the stage.
Yeah. I'd leave them on, but I won't be able to see. Thank you, Cam, not only for the glasses, but for taking me out on the river. Couldn't do it without you, baby. Thank you to Mike. Thank you to Shannon. Thank you to all of you out here in the audience. Thank you to Fishtrap. Thank you to my family at home who's watching the live stream. And I'll just go ahead and get started. I'm going to read a few love poems. And as Kim kind of indicated last night, they're all love poems. So this first one, it's a series of poems that I said about writing very specific love poems, but I wanted to write love poems about things that potentially nobody else would consider to be the subject of a love poem. And I thought, what's the most non-love poem thing I could think of? Calculus. So this is titled The Calculus of You, and I Googled calculus problems, and this one struck a note and a chord, whatever. And here's the actual problem which came up. A balloon is rising at the rate of 5 feet per second. A boy is cycling along a straight road at a speed of 15 feet per second. When he passes under the balloon, it is 45 feet above him. How fast is the distance between the balloon and the boy increasing 3 seconds later? The calculus of you. Something inside of me says to solve for x, where x is the distance between the boy and the balloon, and I am the boy, and you are the balloon, and therefore, y. I must set both to 0 because I am looking for something 3 seconds from now, like a moment after you turn away, but before the perpetuity of the instant before you leave. I wonder stupid things like, what color is my bike? And of course it matters what season we are in, because somehow I love you more in spring. Yes, the road is straight, but is it paved? I know it can't be, because our love is old, and sometimes I compare it to the moon. In short, there are too many variables to the way I love you, so I wonder, is this really a love poem? You, after all, are ascending away from me at a rate which has been determined to be 5 feet per second, and therefore 15 feet further away 3 seconds after I began chasing you. Me, I'm traveling at 15 feet per second, which means I am moving faster than you, which ensures that this is, in fact, a love poem. Because I've also read about the horizon, and something forgiving inside of me also whispers, gravity. This is just another way for me to say that I love you, and though it is longing now, I ride, so that I will hold you somewhere in the spring field whose specks of green are barely visible. But this doesn't answer how fast the distance between the boy and the balloon is increasing, so I remind myself of the horizon, of gravity, of how much I love you. So that my love becomes something like this, where distance is called d, though d is temporary, and because this is still calculus, we divide the temporary by how fast I am pedaling, and factor in the rotation of the earth, and I love the earth too, because it makes what I am about to say possible. The distance of the balloon is multiplied by spring, divided by the dirt road, factored into the earth spinning, which is 800 miles per hour because I'm not at the equator. And it's just another way of saying that I am riding my bike because I love you. And in case you care, I've made my heart into a metronome to pace my pedaling. I know my professor will mark this wrong, but by my calculations, you, the balloon, and me, the boy, are not getting further apart. In fact, I've determined that you will enter into my arms at point Z in exactly the time it takes for me to pedal there. So this next poem, my beautiful and talented and powerful wife, hi, Michelle. She asked me several years ago, how long have you loved me? And my brain said, danger, danger, danger. But this is my answer. For centuries and so on. It's true. I did not know that I have loved you for centuries. There is the distant blue. The blue is distant. In the distance there is blue. Beneath the blue, a place beneath the blue beneath the place. A mound of dirt beneath the snow that will not stick. The snow will not stick. A soft rise of earth. The earth rises softly. Where the soft earth rises, a mound of dirt and a soft earth mound. Soft earth mound that used to be a house, a wood pile and a river beyond. Beyond there is a wood pile. Beyond the wood pile, a river. I long for a perfect piece of wood. A perfect piece of wood is something I long for. My longing is for a piece of wood that is perfect. I hear the split of it, the smoke. We are made of smoke. The two of us made of smoke. Might I repeat myself, I didn't know that I've loved you for centuries. River bend into another bend, which bends and bends again against rocks where someone carved us into stone. Look. You are the river on stone, and I am the hand, a left hand of stone, a finger made of stone, 4 others of feathers. I've loved you for centuries I've loved you. You, for centuries, love until now. An October on the edge of November, October on November's edge, I didn't know until now. River bend into soft earth, a home, distant blue, you, perfect wood which burns all night. My hand is feathers, you, a river on stone. You ask the perfect question, how long have you loved me? Is the perfect question you ask. I answer since we first touched. Our first touch I answer. Since then, since our first touch, since we touched for the first time. Something as still as stone, stillness like stone. Something with a stillness of stone says, no. Perhaps the sky paused between trees. The trees have paused the sky. Perhaps where the sky has paused between trees. Something like silent stones or sky between trees. Silent stone, pause of sky, tells me not since first we touched. For centuries, that's how long. Bend in the river, sweetly bend into another bend, and sweetly so bend, and so on. That's how long. Thank you. So this one's, again, this is part of that series of poems where I'm writing about things that aren't necessarily supposed to be a love poem. I really like maps. It's actually one of my things. And I thought, how would a cartographer write a love poem? So this is it. It's a cartographer's love poem. I can never be the one who says that he loves you, like the grace of leaves palest green, even in October. But the poet needs me just the same. I take his love and press line upon light of it into tight and tighter curves, turn what is wide, wider than night, a poet's love, and give it scale. I cannot tell you why a river loves the sea and loses its name to some other river that also loves the sea and is therefore like passion. But I can tell you that the Nile, Danube, Volga, and Ob, if strung together, are 11,615 miles, and that must mean something about love. I also cannot weave anything, not pain, as metaphor of braiding hair, over, under, and through, and so on. But I can point to a small place, G11, just north of that river and east of that town. You loved her. It did not work. I, because I am kind, have marked that spot, placed it right at the fold of map, so that you will not always ache. I will never mark the groan of the feverfew tasted at by 4 hummingbirds, but I can draw for you her body, a meadow between 2 hills, beneath 3 waterfalls, next to a smudge of green, the way I say forest, where the lines of map tighten to almost touching, a mountain laid flat for your finger to trace, to imagine how fast those 4 hummingbird hearts must beat. Y'all are too kind. Thank you. Kids are getting after it. Anyway, this is titled Crane Poem for My Love. I think it's self-explanatory, so I'll just leave it at that. I do need to tell you, though, that I'm from the El Valle de San Luis, which is in southern Colorado, which is on the migratory path of the sandhill cranes. So every March or so is when they return to the valley. Crane Poem for My Love. 2 cranes fly west into a snowy March morning. These 2 cranes, mates for life, will both outlive us. And one day, my love, because their wings are powerful, because they are the highest flying of all the symbols of love, one day, my love, these 2 birds will deliver us to the place the Chinese call Western Paradise. They are called Zhanhe, heavenly bird, bird of happiness. Because it is custom, I will draw them with tortoises, bamboo, stone, symbols of long life. For us, my love, I wish them something as permanent as cranes. And because cranes know all the gods, if one of us should say, let's not say it. But if one of us should, then the gods will send either you or I to this mortal place, and one of us will trumpet into the morning air. One of us will dance among the wasted grain in the farmer's field. For you, my love, if I'm first, I will throw feathers into the sky. I will pray my crane prayer in the early dawn. For you, if I'm first, I will stand with my head buried in my wing, one leg raised up to my body. I will, for you, stand that way, so you can see that only the tips of my wings are black. There is only that much sadness. If I should, let's not say it. Only the tips of my wings will be sad. The rest of me will burn white and red, my love. I'll wait in my red and white vigilance. I will wait. In myths, the crane lives for 1,000 years, and there are stories of how emperors love them. There are stories of prayers tied to the legs of a crane, so the crane might deliver the fallen. How will you, if? Let's not. But if I'm left, I will think of cranes. For you, my love, my prayer when you read it will be in symbol. For centuries, poets have loved cranes. I will write how God visits earth, flowing down to us on the backs of cranes. For my love, I will write a crane poem that lives in two worlds, one thin line for every crane flying into an autumn sky, and yet another line for each crane returning to a river source, and another line for the crane song that tells peasants to sow their fields. When I finish these lines, the poem will fall from the sky of continents, and while the crane sleeps, I will tie a prayer poem to its leg for God to carry back to you, my love, my Jean-He, heavenly bird, a poem, a prayer like this one for you. I'm gonna read two more. One of them, it's just a little bit longer piece. Guess I should find it first, and then I'll explain it to you. I'm gonna read most of it, but it's excerpted a little bit. I was asked to write an essay on kinship and what kinship means. And I just wanted to ponder that for a moment, and I thought, well, kinship means family, it means blood, it means all of these things which we carry with us. But the moment that I first saw my daughter Root, who my wife and I adopted 12 years ago, I knew instantly she was my kin. I knew instantly that I would love her forever. And so this is an essay where she appears, and I've asked her permission. She's a 17-year-old. She's probably just not very happy that I'm reading it, but she said it was okay. But it's titled, "This Kin, Not of Blood, but of Time." And it has an epigram, which it'll appear later in the piece. None of us remember a time before her. She had with her three spirits we could not see, nor feel, nor imagine. They were with her, the shaman said, to protect her. Shall I send them away? Only if they are ready. They are, finally. I am writing in front of the church, parked here in the first rays of morning sun that many years ago my abuelita and I would attend every day for morning mass. I would sit by her side, impatient, lost in the Spanish voices, their whispered and fervent cadence like a trance, a portal to some communion that neither of us could see, but understood nonetheless. Spring and summer were times of joy, autumn, a respite from the endless Chinook winds of spring and the incessant mosquitoes of summer. Winters are always difficult. Days like today, mid-January, made our walk more difficult. The morning sun would do little to warm our bodies as we made our daily journey to receive the body and the blood, to commune with our ancestors, those silent and those heard in the prayers we recited from memory. Custom and grace we sometimes mistake for survival. That is why I am writing, for the ancestors, the kin that carry us, lead us, follow us, linger just beyond the visible, so that someday they may guide us to the home we hold in our hearts but have not visited for some time. The Tecatos are walking by. It's cold out, 8 below, as the sun barely creeps over the Sangre de Cristos. They are moving quickly, not from the cold, but for their morning fix at the drug house on 11th Street. 2 days prior, there was a blizzard, winds at 60, and the snow blew horizontal to the earth. Twin calves were born in the bosque. Such a birth is rare. Both of the newborns perished in the blizzard. This, too, is why I am writing. So much is about faith and survival here at 8,000 feet. Last night it was 20 below. I don't wish to oversimplify things. For instance, I am not sure I remember how to write anything that is good, but something makes me seek the same ancestors that now watch over me and my family. Their spirit, their eternal parts make their way toward me in a procession of voices, and together we write this, me, their conduit of past struggles and occasional triumphs. The road in front of the church leads to the drug house on 11th, where every morning the thinnest slivers of dawn and the most impenetrable of cold, the emaciated Tecatos make their way for their morning fix. Theirs is a darkness and desolation deeper than abandoned wells. Their despair is not a different loss than the others on display here in my hometown. Pieces of all of us sold in desperation and necessity. I sometimes pray that one day we will not all be left landless, without possessions, on foot. I am called to write about kin. I cannot help but think what I am really being asked to consider is not kin, but protectors. Here is another prayer, that my ancient protectors stay with me until it is safe for them to leave. Their work done, lessons bestowed upon me, and those they follow or guide out of faith, protective love, and eternal hope. Our daughter came to live with us on April 1st, 2012, readopted from her previous home, a chamber of literal hunger, abuse, and pain. We knew instantly, the day we first met her, that we would love her forever. We knew immediately that she was indomitable, her body so tiny, the family that endeavored to break her, and their tool of choice was food. For some reason, they tried to break her, first her will and then her body. She was so diminutive, 5 years old, yet uncowered. None of us remember a time before her. She, the tiny child, yet with a presence that fills room, sent to us para sanar corazones heridos, sent to erase time. The faint and fading markers of sadness etched into our memory. The time before you, dear child of ancient and potent medicine, was sent to heal us. Her protectors followed her to Antonito. They crossed oceans with her. They lived beside her, guided her there in that house that looked east from a high hill overlooking Denver and Golden to the east. Perhaps it was the hands of her ancient kin, their voices guiding her. There were 3 of them, spirit protectors that must have told her when no one was looking, so she could steal bits of food from the plates of her so-called family. This, then, is kin, not of blood necessarily, but of time, of longing, of human necessity. And these, all of them, these spirits are your family, the word upon the soul's ear that is made kin. These addicts moving north on River Street toward 11th, where are their kin? Have they stopped arriving, protecting? What losses, forces of assimilation ache, keep them at bay? Why do some kin haunt and others heal? These are the questions, why I write. My daughter's kin were sent to her some 600 centuries before. I believe this. My wife's family has received their DNA results via email, a world map of arrows, centuries at a time of lingering, settling, of blossoming maternal and paternal lines, and then migrations set in motion by marriages, famine, war, human longing. The narrative of my wife's origins begins with, the origin of our species lies in Africa. It's where humans first evolved and where our species has spent the majority of its time on Earth. We have since migrated to every corner of the globe, a journey that is written in our DNA. Later, the results indicate that my wife's ancient ancestors started to leave the Ethiopian Rift Valley of Africa between 60,000 and 70,000 years ago. There they began their millennia-long pilgrimage to Antonito. Our daughter, born in Mekele, adopted out of Addis Ababa, relocated to her hunger and neglect in Golden, Colorado, now finally sitting across from us in a living room in Antonito, sits in silence. We turn to Root, our daughter, she of the elegant features, of the jawline of unconquered ancestors, of eyes more ancient than all other human existence, and we ask what she thinks of the fact that some 60,000 years ago, Michelle's family came out of Ethiopia. Did they know me? We all laugh, except for her. Now, as I ponder this question of hers, I know it must have been so much more than childish naivete. This then is kin, not of blood, but of ancient and connected time. The shaman asks Michelle if she knows of the three spirits that accompany Root to protect her, we are told. To see if finally someone can be trusted to love her and look after her. Shall I send them away? Only if they are ready. They are, finally. I would like to think of myself as a person of faith. Not just religious faith, but learned and handed down faith, the antidote for anguish. I know our ancestors do not give up on us. They do not leave us because of human choices. They once were human, frail as reeds, broken as winter dawn, where even the sun cannot bring forth the warmth of its own promise. Sometimes our kin are taken from us, stolen. First, by whatever force brings ache and loneliness into the world, colonialism, loss of language, betrayal, assimilation, and poverty, which is the direct descendant of the aforementioned. The ancestors do not leave us. They survive. They survive on the smallest morsels, the crumbs left scattered upon the table, the spiritual food overlooked by failure, doubt, and the already broken. The broken do not wish us harm. Somehow, despite all our failings, our ancestors survive, lingering in the deep and almost forgotten parts of our being. They subsist on whatever bits of our human selves that remain. They wait, patient as spring beneath frozen earth. They await our call to be summoned to our aid, their portal to the earth, born ultimately of hope. They wish us well, to cast away misery. They arrive again and again and again, unseen, to help us overcome whatever longing has gathered them to us. This then is faith, not of blood, but of kindness, of error remedied, of path restored, of loss redeemed. My daughter asks, at 5 years old, if some 600 centuries prior, this family, her new family, knew her. This time, we do not laugh. We linger on what we know to be profound. This, then, is kin, waiting at the edges of our lives, feeding us, patient, protecting us from peril. Perhaps we cannot yet name them. They remain constant sentinels. They wait so that finally they may be sent away. All right, I'm going to read one more. I think my 20 minutes are basically up, so I'm going to do a quick one. Something light in the mood a little bit, hopefully. And it's on this other side. There it is. And something to send us off into the night, hopefully. And I'm hoping, there's a star watching happening after this, if I'm not mistaken, over here in the state park. So this is titled "The Earth at Night, Your Body." And it's inspired by a map of the Earth taken from a satellite, at night, of course. And it shows all the light centers in the world. So there's, New York, Chicago, Recife, Brazil, all the cities of the world, London, and they're all lit up. And so I imagined this poem as though somebody who is truly in love with another human being and orbits them like a satellite. The earth at night, your body. As I orbit you, I begin to love you. And perhaps you are Cairo blooming at the edge of things, the dark desert and the ribbon light of the Nile. In the middle of the Sahara, there is a place that nomads call Tenere, which in their language means nothingness. It is like the deep pause between the stars. I am this small satellite, the first to love you. Your spinning makes me possible. Physicists say that I am constantly falling. My orbit over the earth at night, your body, will always be made of 3 syllables. Tenere, nothingness, satellite, perigee, apogee. I love you, Picayune, sleeping land, emptiness. Yet I glide over your skin, trace the dark blue and greens of your night, find fires where no one has ever lived, find slow and soft blue where glaciers glow black at me. Because I love you, I orbit you, map your light, and in my constant night you burn so beautifully. Moscow, a perfect star. St. Petersburg, your faint sister. Always you are Cairo or some other constant burning. Your oceans repeat against your ribs. This is where you glow turquoise in my night. Your shining body delivered up to me, your satellite. Sometimes, my love, I orbit only to know the infinite dark green of Siberia, whose name means sleeping land. There I find your deepest lake, whose name has no origin. Perhaps Lake Baikal is your heart. 300 rivers flow in, only the Angara flows away. Might I be, I can never be, this river flowing through Siberia. Dear and beautiful earth at night, you have so many names. I want to know the origins of all your places, know the source of every river. In the deep curve of your hips, I will mine for salt and name that place Taudeni. Your navel, I'll orbit there, perhaps forever. Name it the Congo. Your lips, I'll find a place where orchids always grow, and I will call this place Nombre de Dios. When I am closest to you, it will be called perigee. Your hand almost in mine, I'll name this distance Picayune, and then I will spin away toward my apogee. I will name this place something simple, Punta Arenas. I'll give you innumerable names, all of them filled with vowels, all of them like pearls, always something like Cairo. And someday your gravity will pull me from this orbit, and your body, the earth, will burn me to ash. Perhaps I will burn across the sky where 2 lovers in an empty field can watch me glow and burn into you, my earth. They will awe at the way I love you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Erin. So I'm going to do couple quick things for tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, come back here. Food truck day is available to everybody, by the way. So if you want to come up, we'll be hearing readings from Stephanie Elizondo Greist, first time on the stage tonight. Tomorrow night, Elliot Triclo plus the Summer Fishtrap Fellows, Autumn Benninger and Isabel Eastman will be here. Tonight, come up to the lodge. You can get buy a book and get it signed by one of these lovely folks, and at least come and say hi to them. And then also, I wanted to let you guys know for Summer Fish Trappers tomorrow, at 1:30 p.m. is a craft talk with Perrin. Spooky but interesting. Can we learn to love AI as writers? And then at 3 o'clock, it's time to draw. It's time to make some art. The Giuseppe Center for Arts and Culture will be coming up and doing an art activity at 3 o'clock outside. And at 4 o'clock, open mic. How many of you came to the open mic today? How many of you read at the open mic today? All right, if you want to read tomorrow, sign up opens at 8:30 in the morning. Do not try to come up and sign up tonight. We will erase your name. So 8:30 tomorrow morning, there are 10 spots. You have up to 5 minutes. And with that, go with a lot of love. We'll see you tomorrow night. Okay.